Florence, 1478, Sunday morning. Mass is underway in the city's main cathedral, Santa Maria del Fiore. Inside it, there are hundreds of people. It's the moment of communion. Heads are bowed, attention is scattered. No one's ready for what happens next. And in that moment, two men pull out knives. The targets are the Medici brothers, Giuliano and Lorenzo, the most powerful men in the city. Giuliano is killed on the spot, 19 stab wounds. Lorenzo is wounded too, an icing in the neck. But he manages to shield himself with his cloak, break away, and lock himself inside the sacristy. The conspiracy almost worked. Almost. Because one of them survived. He was just attacked in church. His brother was stabbed to death right in front of him. So what now? Hide? Lock himself in the palace? Wait? Lorenzo de Medici comes out before the people with his neck bandaged and moves immediately. Because he understands something very clearly. If he doesn't explain to the city right now what just happened, other people will do it for him. We know the Medici as the great dynasty of the Renaissance. Patrons of art, almost a symbol of Italy, a family that would eventually reach both royal and papal thrones. But in 1478, none of that exists yet. At that point, the Medici are just extremely wealthy bankers, not kings, not dukes, not people with some ancient sacred right to rule. Just a family with a huge amount of money and a huge amount of connections. And a banker in the 15th century wasn't exactly what a banker is now. The church officially called lending money at interest a sin. Everybody borrowed from men like them, and nobody really wanted to sit at the same table with them. At the same time, the Medici had so much money that they were lending across half of Europe: Rome, Venice, Bruges, London. They worked with the papal court, lent money to kings, and controlled financial networks most people couldn't even imagine. But even that didn't give them real protection. Money can be taken away. A bank can be shut down. And if you have no army, no title, no crown, you absolutely can be killed in a cathedral on a Sunday morning, and someone can try to take your place, which is exactly what they tried to do. Behind the plot was the Pazzi family, another powerful Florentine clan. But on their own, they probably never would have gone that far. They had the backing of Pope Sixtus IV, who had his own conflict with the Medici over money and influence. So if you strip away all the beautiful Renaissance imagery, the picture is actually very simple. Several powerful people decided it was time to physically remove the Medici and divide up their wealth among themselves. It's just that in the 15th century, things like that were settled with knives in the middle of Sunday service. This attack could have destroyed everything. One brother is dead, the other is wounded. And all of it happened in front of hundreds of people in the city's main cathedral during Mass. Everyone had just been shown something terrifyingly simple. The Medici could be touched. They could be killed in the holiest place in Florence. And this is where Lorenzo moves very fast. First, he does not disappear. He shows himself to the city, alive, standing, fully conscious. People need to see that the Medici are not broken. Second, he gives the city what it wants in that moment: revenge. The conspirators start getting rounded up almost immediately. Some of them are hanged the very same day, right from the windows of the Palazzo della Signoria, the city's political center. It's brutal, it's theatrical. But after a shock like that, a crowd does not want subtle political analysis. A crowd wants a clear answer. Who is the victim here and who is the criminal? But the most powerful move comes after that. Lorenzo does not let this remain just a bloody episode that everyone forgets in a week. He commissions Botticelli, yes, that Botticelli, the one we know from The Birth of Venus, to paint images of the executed conspirators, with faces, with names, and to have them displayed publicly. Most rulers in his position would have stopped at punishment. For Lorenzo, that was not enough. He didn't just need the guilty punished. He needed to control the story, so that what everyone remembered was not the Medici were almost wiped out, but something very different. The Medici were attacked, and the whole city stood behind them. Then he goes even further. He publicly accuses the Pope. In that era, that was almost unthinkable. The Pope was not just the head of the church. He was a massive political force with territories, armies, and diplomats all across Italy. And still, Lorenzo makes the bet that Florence is already seeing the situation through his eyes. The bet works. The city stands with him. The Pope backs down. In a matter of days, Lorenzo turns an assassination attempt into a political victory. He doesn't have an army that can force any of this through. He doesn't have a crown that guarantees automatic loyalty. He has only one thing. He understands before anyone else that after something like this, the person who wins is the one who explains first what exactly the public has just seen. And this is where we get to the most important idea in the whole story. The Medici were not powerful because they were rich. Florence had plenty of rich families. They were powerful because they understood earlier than everyone else one uncomfortable truth. Money alone is not enough. Your bank can be shut down. Your property can be confiscated. You yourself can be killed. And if after that nothing of you remains, then your entire power was built on a very fragile foundation. The Medici started building something else. Even Cosimo de' Medici, Lorenzo's grandfather, invested not just in banking but in churches, libraries, and public buildings. A moneylender is someone people use and look down on. A man who helps beautify the city and pays for the things the city is proud of is a benefactor. Those are not the same thing. Lorenzo went even further. Under him, Botticelli, the young Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci all gather around the Medici world. Luxury, patronage, the ideas that defined the age, all of it was serving one larger idea. The Medici were not just a rich family. The Medici were part of what made Florence. Which means that striking at the Medici means striking at the city itself, at its beauty, its reputation, its self-respect. Basically, for years they were doing the same thing over and over, making themselves impossible to cut out. Not, we're here because we have money, but we're here because without us, something important disappears. That is a completely different position, and it is almost the perfect form of protection. And still, there was one weak point in the whole structure. In 1492, Lorenzo dies. He is 43. From the outside, it looks like the Medici should continue. The name is enormous. The connections are there. The resources are there. But no. Power passes to his son, Piero. And very quickly it becomes obvious. You can inherit palaces, collections, archives, clients, but you cannot inherit the ability to make people want you to stay. 2 years later, the French king Charles VIII approaches Florence with an army. Piero goes to negotiate and basically capitulates. He makes the exact mistake Lorenzo never made. He does not explain to the city what is happening. He does not gather people around himself. He does not turn the crisis into a shared story. Florence instantly feels the difference between a man who had become part of the city and a man who had simply inherited the family name. The Medici are expelled. Into that empty space steps Savonarola, a monk offering the city a completely different system of meaning. No luxury, no beauty, no humanism. Just fear, repentance, and purification. In the public squares, books, jewelry, and paintings begin to burn. All the things that just yesterday people had spent lifetimes valuing. And that is the answer to why the Medici system was both brilliant and fragile at the same time. As long as it was led by someone who understood what he was doing, it could elevate ordinary bankers into something close to the level of kings. Piero inherited everything, except the one thing that mattered most. The Medici did not disappear. They returned to Florence in 1512. 4 of them became popes. Catherine de' Medici became Queen of France and shaped the politics of one of Europe's most important courts for decades. So the family that people once tried to wipe out in a cathedral for being too powerful, as bankers eventually rose to a place where, by all the normal rules, they never should have ended up at all. And here's the thing. Catherine de' Medici, even as Queen of France, did not reject her origins. On the contrary, she emphasized them. She was the daughter of bankers. And when she said it, that no longer sounded like a weakness. It sounded like proof of how far this family had managed to go, not in spite of where they came from, because of it.